This is how you can use AI to become smarter every day. By learning something new using the advanced voice mode or the regular voice mode from ChatGPT. This is something I've been doing a lot recently, learning about particle physics. The technique is very simple. All you do is go to ChatGPT, go on their voice mode, and start asking it questions, like asking it whatever questions that you have. For me, I was just asking like, let's give it a run actually. What are the most fundamental particles in physics?
The most fundamental particles in physics are known as elementary particles. These include 1. Quarks. They combine to form protons and neutrons, which make up atomic nuclei. There are 6 types of quarks: up, down, charm, strange, top, and bottom. 2. Leptons. These include electrons, which orbit the nucleus of an atom, and neutrinos. There are 6 types of leptons: electron, muon, tau, and their corresponding neutrinos. 3. Gauge bosons. These particles act as force carriers for the fundamental forces. Examples include photons for electromagnetic force, gluons for strong force, and W and Z bosons for weak force. 4. Higgs boson. This particle is associated with the Higgs field, which gives other particles their mass. These particles are the building blocks of the universe. They interact through the fundamental forces of nature.
Okay, so you got the explanation of it. If you have zero interest in physics, that was probably very boring to you. But for me, the first time when I heard these things, I was like, oh, like what do each fundamental particle do? And for instance, like I can ask ChatGPT that. So I want to learn more about each fundamental particle. Which ones do you think I should learn first?
Starting with the most accessible and widely known particles is a great approach. Here's a suggested order. 1. Electrons. Begin with electrons since they are fundamental to atoms and chemistry.
Sure. How about we just go ahead and start diving into electrons? What is special about electrons?
Absolutely. Electrons are fascinating particles. Here are some key points about them. 1. Charge. Electrons have a negative electric charge. This charge is equal in magnitude but opposite to that of protons, which have a positive charge. 2. Mass. Electrons are very light compared to protons and neutrons. Their mass is about 1/1836 of a proton's mass. 3. Location. Electrons orbit the nucleus of an atom in regions called electron clouds or orbitals. 4. Role in chemistry. Electrons play a crucial role in chemical reactions and bonding.
Hold on, something just came into my mind. Like, in terms of these elementary particles, did they all like exist at the same time in the beginning of the universe? Like, were they created in a certain order?
Great question. According to the Big Bang Theory, the universe started from an extremely hot and dense state. As the universe expanded and cooled, particles began to form. Here's a simplified timeline. 1. First moments. In the very first fractions of a second, the universe was too hot for particles to exist as we know them. Only energy was present. 2. Quark-gluon plasma. As the universe cooled, quarks and gluons, the building blocks of protons and neutrons, began to form but were in a state called quark-gluon plasma. 3. Formation of protons and neutrons. A few microseconds after the Big Bang, quarks combined to form protons and neutrons. 4. Formation of atomic nuclei. A few minutes after the Big Bang, protons and neutrons combined to form the nuclei of light elements like hydrogen and helium in a process called nucleosynthesis. 5. Formation of electrons. Electrons formed shortly after the quarks and gluons, and they began to orbit atomic nuclei. So yes, these particles were created in a specific order as the universe cooled and expanded.
Nice. So when you're talking about seconds and microseconds and everything like that, this is a time reference of how like we calculate time from Earth, right?
Yes, exactly. When we refer to time in the context of the early universe, we're using units like seconds and microseconds, which are standard measurements of time on Earth. These units help scientists describe and understand the extremely short timescales of events in the early universe. For example, when we say a few microseconds after the Big Bang, it's a way to quantify how quickly the universe changed and evolved from its initial state. These measurements are based on our understanding of physical processes and are not dependent on any particular location.
Right, but in terms of time dilation, like let's say if we're seeing things from the reference point of like a quark that eventually formed, that quark's experience with time is vastly different because of how different the universe was, right?
Yes, exactly. In the early universe, conditions were extremely different from what we experience today, and the concept of time can be quite different at those scales. However, time dilation, as described by Einstein's theory of relativity, mainly comes into play when dealing with objects moving at speeds close to the speed of light or in strong gravitational fields. For particles like quarks in the early universe, the conditions were extremely high in energy and temperature, but the concept of time for such fundamental particles is best understood within the framework of quantum mechanics and high-energy physics. In essence, while the experience of time for a quark in the early universe would differ from what we experience, it's more about the physical processes and interactions rather than time dilation in the relativistic sense.
Okay, I see. We can go back to learning about electrons.
Of course. Let's dive back into electrons. Here are a few more interesting details.
So you guys get the idea. That's basically how I've been spending some of my nights, actually, just doing that for about 30 minutes or so, trying to understand the universe. Obviously, you guys can apply this to something else that might actually be a bit more helpful with, real life. Like, let's say you're trying to learn a skill with marketing or sales or something like that. You can ask ChatGPT, like, maybe to go through some sales calls with you, and you can practice and then ask for feedback and so on. It's sort of like my previous video about using the Feynman technique, but you're practicing with the voice mode for AI. Of course, advanced voice mode, which is what we're currently using, is better. When I use the basic voice mode, it has a tendency to drone on for very long and you can't interrupt it unless you press it. So it's kind of annoying because I like doing these things while I'm doing other things and just asking questions. But it is free, which is kind of insane. Like, another great use of this, actually, if you want to become smarter and just learn something new every day, is language. I find that the advanced voice mode is very, very useful for language, and it's something I have been trying out more recently. Especially, I actually did buy the premium plan for 30 days to use it for learning Japanese, and I found it very, very useful. I made a video about that, I think on my second channel a while back, but I haven't been using it as often because I kind of am in Japan, so I'm like, I can learn Japanese here. But if you're in a place where that's not as accessible, this is actually really good. So let's just do a sample. We don't have too much time with it anymore, but let's try it. 今、日本語勉強したいです。日本語を使ってください。
もちろんです。日本語を学びたいんですね。どのようなことを勉強したいですか？例えば、日常会話、文法、語彙など、どんなことでも聞いてくださいね。
今、文法を勉強したいです。
いいですね。日本語の文法を勉強したいんですね。具体的にどの文法を学びたいですか？例えば、定型やマス形、助詞の使い方など、興味がある部分を教えてください。そこから始めましょう。
今、早すぎ。少しゆっくり話して。
わかりました。もっとゆっくり話しますね。日本語の文法を勉強したいんですね。どの文法を学びたいですか？例えば、定型やマス形、助詞の使い方など、どんなことに興味がありますか？教えてください。
今、JLPT N3 を勉強していますから。
なるほど。JLPT N3 の勉強をしているんですね。N3 の文法について何か特に質問がありますか？例えば、何々たり、何々するや、方法など覚えたい文法があれば教えてください。
Okay, you get the idea. I only had a few minutes left, so you can do that for about 15 minutes a day for free using the advanced voice mode, which is kind of really insane, to be honest. I really think that that's super helpful to just do it for 15 minutes a day and have a practice conversation. There's so many ways to use it. There's so many creative ways to just use the voice mode to learn and become smarter every day. And it's so easy. You just push a button and start talking. So I think we really are in a stage where AI has become very useful for learning. And I made a video about this a while back, about how I learned Japanese using AI for 30 days. And I said that it was basically liberating in a way. You get to choose whatever you learn. For instance, when I was doing the whole physics stuff, I can just randomly have something pop up in my head and I can ask it. So it's really up to you how you want to use this to learn and what you choose to learn as well. So hopefully my demonstration with this can help you guys out there in using AI to become smarter every day. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.